Nick Wright's my buddy, co-host of First Things First. That's the show after ours. It's the only cable show in America with no budget. He hates when I say that. He really...
It's just a lie. I mean, it's just a lie, but that's fine. Go ahead. Good to see you, my friend.
Good to see you. Now, you have been more pro Aaron than I have been, but you've come to the side of he may be part of
You've been right.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, no problem.
7-game stretch. Kind of tough. This is the second time he has called out his coach, who was his guy, who's his buddy, generationally, kind of same age.
Yeah.
You have to admit, that's not the way to solve this issue, right?
Well, he's called out his coach, and this time also some of his teammates, and while he didn't name them, I'm sure they know who he's talking about. And in that same interview, he said, by the way, my quarterback coach says it was my highest graded game of the year. It's so bizarre. It's just so objectively and obviously the wrong approach. So listen, I am not trying to compare myself to Aaron Rodgers. I'm not Aaron Rodgers. However, I've been in broadcasting for 15 years out of college, so the same length of his career. There was one, and I've been relatively successful. There is one stretch of my career that is without question the worst. My third year in Houston, it's the only time I worried I was going to get fired. The ratings of the radio show were in the tank. It was a really tough time for me professionally that year. That year, if you were to check, how nice is Nick to coworkers? What's his general disposition? That's the nicest I've ever been. The best I've ever been, because I'm like, oh boy, I need people to like me right now. Like, I'm not carrying my weight. Like, let's make sure we're showing up to all the parties and doing all the good things.
Right.
It's so weird to me that Aaron, when he is playing objectively the worst football of his career, he is going the other direction and calling people out more than usual. It's just bad strategy from an otherwise pretty sharp guy, I think.
Okay, so I am a believer that hiring coaches is really hard. I think Oklahoma had a miss. The Jaguars, Urban Meyer, had a miss. Freddie Kitchens, Cleveland. It's okay. What's not okay is doubling down on it. And so there is no historic precedent for a quarterback being B+ for 4 years and then the worst player in the league, unless there's a drug use and injury. So let's get past that for a second. I think if they fired Hackett, if they lost to the Jags, I think it inspires the team. I think he's weighting them down. What do you make of it?
I said I thought it would have been justifiable to fire him after week 2. Because in week 1, he made the single most indefensible coaching decision I've ever seen at the NFL level, the 64-yard field goal. And in week 2, situationally, he was worse. And I think I knew they wouldn't fire him after week 2, but if they did, it's new ownership who didn't hire him, has gotten the most money of anybody in the world, essentially. They could say, you know what? It's the wrong guy. You know what I mean? Rip the Band-Aid off now. So I think if you know if he's not going to be the coach next year, then I understand the argument as to just get it over with now. However, it could be a problem for you, my friend. Be careful what you wish for. Because if they bring in a new coach, and your guy Russell Wilson still stinks, I don't know who you're blaming next. And I heard you. I was listening to the Open, and you're like, no precedent. 4 years of excellence and the worst in football. But, Colin, there is precedence for a player going from an A to an A- to a B to a B-, which is what Russ's last 4 years have been, and then being bad. In fact, that is exactly what happened to Peyton Manning in Denver. He was A+, A+, B+, F. And it was not because of some new injury. And so I worry for you what's going to happen if they get rid of the coach and Russell Wilson is still terrible. Do I think he's the worst quarterback in the league? No. Do I think he is no longer an above-average quarterback? Yes, and I don't think coaching is going to fix that.
Well, as long as I don't take Lincoln Riley from USC, I'm okay with a new coach.
Okay. Oh, yeah. That's no problem.
That one I won't be happy with. You were talking about a work environment. I think you can solve a lot. You could work with somebody and, listen, they're good, but maybe they're not good for a certain role, and you move them to a different department. That's happened. I mean, that happens all the time for all of us, right? Like, I don't fit here, I fit there, I fit here. We're all specialists in life. But if somebody's toxic, you got to get them out of the building. Always, every industry. To me, Westbrook, it's nothing against him personally. But in the last couple years, L.A., his last stops, there's a toxicity with him. You can't solve it. You can solve a bench. You can solve substitution patterns. I think they made a massive mistake not moving off him. And by the way, the West, it looks like Portland's okay. The Pelicans won without Zion and Brandon Ingram. What do you make of this?
Colin, it's a grievous error they've made. A grievous error. You can say LeBron made him trade for him a year ago, even though LeBron couldn't get his the coach he wanted hired, but he can make them trade for Russ, fine. Put that at the feet of LeBron. And then they didn't move him at the deadline. There was that anonymous, the anonymous sourcing of, the Buss family wants LeBron and AD to sleep in the bed they made or whatever the quote was. Like, that's ridiculous. There's no way to run a team. But fine, those guys were hurt. Throw last year away. All summer we knew this was coming. And all summer they stood pat. And the argument, the only possible argument is that they believe because there are going to be certain teams that right now don't think they're going to tank, but then are going to turn the ship in the other direction, that a better trade is going to come available than Buddy Hield and Miles Turner for Russ and the picks. I understand that. However, the response to that is twofold. First of all, if you end up having to just trade Russ for Turner and Hield, who you could have gotten 6 months ago, then this is a cataclysmic error by Rob Pelinka. The season might be lost by then. And the second point is this. Until you trade him, you do just have to send him home. You can't, they are a non-functional offense.
That's right.
And and Patrick Beverley is, no great shakes on it, but he is the biggest part of it. Right now, Colin, this is an unbelievable stat. There are 11 players in the entire league that have taken at least 3 threes per game and are shooting less than 25% on them. 11 in the whole league. 4 of them are on the Lakers.
Yeah.
4 of them. So 4 of the 11 worst shooters in the league so far this year have been on the Lakers. Ross, Beverly, Nunn, Walker. So there's no spacing. It doesn't work. And if they end up just getting Turner and Hield, who they could have gotten 6 months ago, but when they make the trade, they're 5-12, and already odds-on lottery team. It's just a grievous mistake that everyone saw coming.
Finally, Brady went in his podcast yesterday with Jim Gray and said, "I'm all in. The retirement talk is over." Is that him positioning, leadership positioning, or do you buy it that was the Giselle issue and he's going to keep playing?
Oh, I think he's going to keep playing. I think he's playing past this year. I don't know where. He didn't want to play this year for Tampa. I think maybe he saw this coming. So yeah, I think that he is going to keep playing. I would be very surprised if Brady doesn't keep playing. And by the way, as bad as the Bucs have looked, and I'm no long-term Brady fan, there is a world, Colin, where they're the 9-8, but the 4th seed because they win the division. And the 5 seed is Daniel Jones and the Giants. And that Brady's path to another conference championship game is Daniel Jones in Tampa and then beating Kirk Cousins, like with the Vikings as the 2. That could happen. Yeah. I'm already emotionally preparing myself for it. And I know you said finally, which I think means we're done. We're really you're not going to ask me anything about my Chiefs dismantling your beloved Jimmy G. How much more help does Jimmy G need? First team All-Pro running back, first team All-Pro wide receiver, first team All-Pro tight end, first team All-Pro left tackle, best defense in football. Not enough? What does he need the Avengers? Like what does he need for you to finally get off Jimmy G? Are they still happy that Trey Lance isn't there? Or maybe did they look there and say, we need a quarterback who doesn't? I got one last fact for you, Colin. Sorry, I hijacked your show. Yeah. Last 30 years in the NFL, there have been 28 instances of a quarterback throwing a pick, losing a fumble, and getting safety in the same game. 28 times in 30 years. 2 of them are Jimmy G this month, buddy. I mean, it ain't great. It ain't great, my friend. We call that the Jimmy G trifecta. He's patented it.
Oh, that's funny. Nick Wright, first things first, it's right after our show. They have the best lead in the business. So things are looking up.
That is true. You know what? We have the best wardrobe situation and the best lead in the business. If we're not a success, it's totally on me. Talk to you later, buddy.
All right, Nick Wright, first things first. Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd or go watch a few segments from other shows on FS1.